So thank you, everyone. Much appreciate the opportunity to be out here. My name is Burgess Cooper. I'm a cybersecurity deputy leader with EY. And before joining EY, I was like you in the industry where I was the ex-CISO at Vodafone and HSBC. I'll go in the same order as it's Gaurav. Over to your introduction.
Yeah, hi, everyone, and thanks for having me here. Gaurav, I'm part of Sci Life Sciences over the last year as their Chief Digital and Information Officer. I also hold the responsibility for information and cybersecurity within the firm.
Thank you, Sudeep.
Hi, I'm Sudeep. I'm part of the IBM Security Technical Sales team. My job really is to make sure that I go all up to you and pitch the IBM story for all of you.
Thank you, Sudeep. Who's next? Dilip.
Hi, everybody. This is Dilip Panjwani. I am CISO and IT controller at LTI and responsible for enterprise security controls and programs. Happy to be here, part of the session.
Thank you, Dilip. Look forward. Babita.
Hello, everybody, and myself, Babita. I'm the CISO of CSB Bank. I'm really very happy to be part of this panel. I have got almost 18 plus years of experience in security and IT.
Thank you, Babita. Look forward to that. And Chetan, leave the best for the last. Over to you.
Yeah, thank you. Hi, I'm Chetan Narayan Tendulkar. I'm a co-founder of a new startup by name Hunt. And before this, I've been associated with some of the big fours and some renowned pharma companies globally based. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chetan. So guys, today's topic is very well chosen in today's times. State of the AI, ML in cybersecurity. Is it a savior or the enemy? And I'd like to start with Babita. Babita, your opening comments on this. Do you think AI is a boon to us as we deploy new AI techniques to help save ourselves? Or have the attackers got an upper hand by using it to attack us in a much more faster and much more deeper, impactful way?
Thank you for the question. And as you said, it is relevant for the time. Here, when we talk about AI ML, it is the system will be taking the response action based on the data fed to the system. So it depends upon how we are feeding the system and how we are making the system learn about the actions or response plans, what is actually meant. When you talk about whether it is advantage, of course, I will say it is always advantageous for an organization like a BFSI, where we hold almost 5,000 endpoints, more than 5,000 endpoints, and we don't have a proper visibility of the assets. And in such scenarios, to integrate the systems and to monitor and detect it on a timely manner, of course, I will suggest for AI-based technology. But as I started with the data accuracy, the effectiveness of the AI technology, I think it is yet to be, we have yet to get the feel out of it, but I don't think we have to explore more because always there is a time lag for the learning phase and the false positiveness. So anyway, of course, with this time, we have to be in this field of AI ML because fraudsters is already into this. Earlier, they took almost 200 days to attack the system. With AI technologies, they are even able to do it in a month or within 100 days.
Thanks, Babita. Very well said. System responds as much as the data you put into it. Clearly advantageous for a BFSI segment. AI ML effectiveness is yet to be ascertained to time lag. Dilip, a question to you. Babita mentioned BFSI, but you look at ITIT as it is equally at risk, equally attacked. Maybe, in fact, Cloud Hopper said that many companies providing services could be more at risk. What is your view of AI ML in cyber?
I couldn't agree more with Babita. When you look at it from the perspective of events, assets continue to increase, applications increase, and the attacks go multifold. Now, when you're constantly having attacks coming in, the number of events that are generated in your SOC, that will definitely be way too large than the count of people that will be in your SOC to really monitor, review those events, and triage them within time to be able to act on them. So this is where you need to look at AI and ML to be able to bring in some more intelligence so that you can get more information for the SOC analyst to really act faster and not spend too much time on the event, because we look at the mean time to detect and the mean time to respond as one of our critical parameters. And that can only be supported with AI and ML playing a major role to help us achieve that objective.
Thanks, Dilip. Mean time to detect, mean time to respond, assets increase, apps increase, SOC has to be sort of effective. Question to Sudeep. Sudeep, as a provider of the world's best technology solutions, one of the leading platforms in this area, the QRadar, and which has been it's like a generation, do you think it's only AI ML in SOC, or what are the other areas? To further the point what Dilip made, what other areas will AI ML be? And when you pitch a great solution on the future from an IBM, what do you look at? Only SOC, or what else would you have AI ML in applicability?
It will touch. So let me give a statement as it will touch every aspect of control. The security controls that we can think of. So be it the perimeter controls, be it the application security controls, data controls, or the threat management controls like the SOC and all, where it is more used today, right? As a technology, I guess there is no technology per se which can be a threat itself, right? In the hands of the adversaries, in the hands of thing, it will be used in the way it is. And if I'm working on it in terms of the correct data points, it would definitely. But one thing that I would like to, what we always focus on is AI is not a panacea, right? We have to find out which are the use cases, which you rightly pointed out. There has to be certain use cases, and the correct AI has to be applied on that use case. For example, if I'm going to go ahead and put a supervised AI for malware detection, it will most probably become a threat rather than an advantage. And the other way around, if I put unsupervised AI for a use case like insider threat, and the reliance of this AI on those things, it will become a threat by itself. So I think in 2 points that I like to, from IBM, we like to see. One, AI will be an advantage if I put the correct AI algorithms for the correct use cases. So the fitment has to be there. And of course, coupled with the data points, which is there. And the second point, which I believe a little more fundamental, is we look at AI not as an alternate to skills. And that is where it becomes a threat. A lot of time, our reliance on AI is to not, invest in the skills, and if we can put this AI to augment our skills rather than replace our skills, I believe it will always be an advantage in every aspect of security control as we, adopt it.
Thank you, Sudeep. Very well mentioned. The 2 aspects of AI: correct AI for the correct use cases, not an alternative to skills, but as a complementary stuff. I love the depth you went to when you mentioned supervised and unsupervised AI with the examples. Correct AI to be applied to the correct case. It's not a panacea, clearly. So thanks for the perspective. So moving to Gaurav. Gaurav, what is the correct alternative for AI? What is the supervised and unsupervised perspectives? How deep do you think you are going right now, and how is the industry willing to go to actually combat cyber attacks?
Yeah, I think the truth is that the hackers will always be ahead of all of us in the corporates, right? The amount of money that they are ready to invest and the incentive they have to really hack, they're always far ahead. So that is, I think, that is the truth. Now, if you look at it and you pick up this truth and you take it back to the board, for example, right? Now, what is the board really looking at? Now, the board is looking at a secure environment where we can protect our own data and intellectual property and our customers' data and intellectual property. And then finally, all other stakeholders and shareholder data and intellectual property, right? This could be, PII data. This could be actual data. I'm part of the pharmaceutical industry, so it could be data related to molecules that we work on, a customer IP that we work on, etc. Right? With that being said, what the board is looking at and what the leadership team is looking at is how can we make ourselves secure? Today, we are not at a level of maturity where they are saying, should it be AI versus non-AI? They are looking at a solution. And I totally agree with Sudeep, a set of right skills within the organization to make sure that we are protected. Organization, when I say broadly, organization and partners, because a lot of us have SOCs which are being run by managed service providers. And, so it is the capability of the individual SOC provider plus the capability of the tools and technology that you sort of invest in, right? Now, having said that, to your point, Burgess, whether it is supervised or unsupervised learning, one of the things which is becoming all the more critical is looking at, employees and the pattern recognition of the employee behavior itself. Because that itself, will give a lot of insights on changes of behaviors, which then can, go on to detecting any rogue behavior that might be within the organization. The same thing is true to Babita's point with multiple endpoints that we all manage. These could be laptops, desktops, mobiles. These could be, POS machines, etc. Anything can be a threat. At the end of the day, how do you really build patterns? And I really don't know whether it is a debate between AI and machine learning itself. But I think the kind of use cases that we have today, I think machine learning itself can do the trick to help us identify, unforeseen patterns at the end of the day. AI, I think we're still a little far away from a maturity curve perspective. Moving in the right direction, malware, for example, detection, spam filters, we definitely use a lot of AI and ML, and I think those tools are fairly mature. But other use cases, I think they're still, yet to prove themselves, is my view. I might
Thank
be
you, Gaurav. Give a good view. How does the board look at it? Board doesn't look at technology, but looks at solution and how
Right.
they are helping the company. Machine learning can actually fill in the gap. AI is a bit sort of distant away. Fair point. And you're right. The use cases make a big difference when you say the same length as Sudeep. So thanks for that, Gaurav. Appreciate. Chetan, your perspective. Your startup looks at a lot of these things. What is your view to the world, and what would be your sort of response to this first opening comments?
Well, I would take a step back from the discussions we had. Definitely, those are very insightful. I believe in having a holistic view about any technology that comes as a new, like the AI ML, as this case in this discussion. Now, the first point I would say is I would say I would look at a two-pronged strategy. One is definitely the technical challenges that we would have in terms of skill set and selecting the right solution or the right algorithm. That is the one part of it. The second solution, I would say, it's the intent by which we use this technology as the whether it is being used by adversaries or is it being used by businesses for growing. That is two type of intent that will distinguish whether it's a boon or bane. Now, coming to another angle of it, why any technology, whenever it comes as a new, why it gets judged as whether it's a boon or bane, is also about the impact it is going to make into overall tech scenario or employment scenario in the world. So I would believe that whenever we implement some new technology, we should also look at the people who are going to impact through it. Especially when we say AI is going to optimize our cost of technology or cost of human resources that are spending time on any processes or activities. So once we implement AI, how we are going to utilize those extra resources that we have, whether we let them to be unemployed or do we invest in reskilling them and making them eligible to be employed even post we implement the AI. So that is what the question that make the difference about perception, whether it's a really boon or bane. So I would like to focus on even this second aspect also, being a more responsible business where I ensure that people don't lose jobs. Rather, I would upskill whatever I save from implementing AI and ML.
Thank you so much. I think I love the humane view, I just said a holistic view to a step back approach. Selecting technology is easy, but the intent to use that technology, judged by the impact it causes on people, whether they make them redundant or make them smarter, responsible business. So I think you hit a very, very key point. And I'm going to ask a human-based question to all the panelists, and you can answer in the way we want to. How ready are we from a human approach, A, from a skilling approach, and B, from a reskilling approach for people who've been displaced? So first, how many people are there who really understands AI, ML in our respective teams, in the consultants we look at, in the industry we are going to hire, from the colleges we're going to sort of seek the force? And B, what is the plan, to Chetan's very good comment, on if you're going to make an L1 redundant, because now it will be much more automated school, are we making that L1 a red teamer or a purple teamer, or are we making him an architect? How do we look at the humane angle of the people we displace by this AI ML technology? So open to the panelists, maybe Sudeep or somebody else wants to pick it up. I can see a lovely smile on you, Sudeep. Go ahead, give me your response.
Yeah, I mean, one of the biggest selling points is you will remove L1, L2 after you implement our AI-driven automated technology, right? I mean, yes, that's always been, and the human AI, the ethical AI, there is the technology angle to it, and of course the impact angle. I love the fact that, Chetan talked about what is the impact of this AI, and really speaking, in the practical sense, our L1s today do not love their job, right? So if I can actually make their life more exciting, I guess that's what is happening. Even though, Genpact and all went ahead and went public and said that we have removed L1 from things, but they also vouch for the fact that the L1 team now has moved up, reskilled themselves, because one thing in security, which is very different from all the other domains we work in, if I have risk mentality, if I understand risk, you can just go up. You don't really need to understand the underlying technology. If you can apply your risk skills to the levels, you will be relevant always, be it AI or without AI. Your risk management skills will always take you. So in the security field, I do not believe that AI can really help, take away jobs, because a true security guy is a risk management guy, and there are so many different ways by which you can apply your risk skills. If you are just an operator, most probably you will get impacted. But if you skill yourself as a risk guy, you will not. And that's exactly what we are seeing in most of the displaced roles that AI is bringing in. The other aspect, AI is really targeting those aspects that was never looked into, right? So it is not, for example, the data points for all the endpoints and all. We were never looking into it at all. With AI, we're actually able to look into it, which is increasing the the load on the operators or the security guys, because now they're seeing more, they have more visibility, they have more analysis in their hands to work on. So at least in the security field, I think it is always going to be very, very human in nature.
I love your optimism. And I like the way you mentioned that L1's totally redundant. That never happens. You just reskill them. And your optimism, again, about a risk-based approach will always keep you more relevant. And targeting those aspects will never ensure that you stay outdated. So that's great. Love the optimism, Sandeep. Babita, you're saying, go ahead, Babita. Your perspective. How ready are we from a human skill perspective?
Yeah, I just want to add on to what Sudeep has told, like L2 or L1 in a security field. I don't consider anyone as L1 in the security field, because without the knowledge of IT, no one can come to the security field. So there are already some experience should be there. What a firewall is, what kind of alerts is being generated from the SOC or SIEM, in what they have to monitor and where they have to act upon. So I don't think that there is any role for a only thing we are naming them as L1, but they should definitely have some kind of knowledge in them to analyze the things. What kind of alerts are coming, and how we have to act on it. With perspective to the AI/ML, it is like we are just if we are getting 1,000 alerts a day, how we can refine it, how much false positives are there. Only that part can be done by the AI/ML tool. Only the refining of the tools, and as most of them have rightly said, the maturity curve of AI/ML is yet to be in the flat line, because this data they have to learning phase. It is taking, I think it's slightly taking much more time than what we intended it to have. And the algorithms, we have to see the use cases, whether it really means to us. And depending upon the infrastructure of the organization, then the use cases also will change. So based on that, how far these algorithms are ready to accept the change in use cases and produce the right alerts with false positive, less false positive, and all those steps. So I don't think there will be a layoff of people just because AI/ML has come. I think they will be more required to, because we will be going into more of fine tuning of the things. And I need.
I like your approach, Babita. You're saying at one side we had Chetan who mentioned people could lose jobs. You are having a very contradictory view saying no, jobs will increase because you'll have more refinement, you will have all the more need. Maturity curve is a flat line. Dilip, over to you. Is the maturity curve of AIML a flat line right now? Is it going to increase in the future? How ready are you and your team being prepared to meet this new challenge from a skilling perspective?
So I think from my recent experience, if I had to put it down, Burgess, we last year went and migrated from a managed service SOC to actually a full-fledged internal captive SOC. And we got that chance to leapfrog and move further from the learnings from all our peers in the industry. That's where we went ahead with a complete full-fledged SIEM included with AI, ML, and SOAR capabilities completely on that space. That helped me to completely wipe out the need for any requirements for putting a L1 SOC team in the first place. That's the first benefit that I really called out on the table. I only had L2 and L3s really defined, and that's why I didn't need to have a 50-member team to really work on events and keep on telling the organization as and when every 100 assets get added, I'll add one more person behind it to monitor events around it. We are fine tuning that again, but that's where I think the question which you just put up forward is how mature are we? I think that's a continuous learning curve. We are very nascent in this space today. We still need to work a lot with regards to understanding the business perspective. What is the threat we are trying to bring in? And that comes back to the same point of what Sudeep started with and Babita also echoed on, is the risk management aspect of what is the risk that you're trying to attend to, and how do you translate that into a business perspective and finally bring it into a monitoring perspective through the AI and ML rules that you want to put in to enrich the data coming in and then act upon it. Eventually, whether you want to really take every event or no. And AI definitely is helping now more with regards to getting more bold and getting into more depths of looking at security events. Because earlier, I didn't have really that much bandwidth. And hence, I used to only monitor for failed login attempts. Now, because of AI and ML in place, I can really put down rules and even go for all success login events also and really go down deep to look at insider threats and all other lateral movements around.
Great, Dilip. So would you be in the camp when Babita says you will need more people for AIML, or would you be in the camp where Chetan says they will be displaced and hence retrained? Where do you think, or somewhere in between, what would be your perception to the future in the distant gazing future?
I would bend more towards Babita because it will be more of getting people reskilled, upskilled, and getting them more trained towards an element of data scientists where they understand data which comes in so that they can put the models for AI and ML. Again, they bring in the risk management aspects of learnings where they can really use business understanding and then help put the right context to enrich the data and take action on it.
Thank you, Dilip. Chetan, your perspective, you have two people on the panel who said not much different, but a different perspective that they will feel more of a need, and you're saying no, there's a human angle. Where does all this tie up?
I'd
love to have a panel with two different views. It gets more energy in the room. Yeah.
Yes. So I would say what I meant by human angle is about the probable jobs which will go. Of course, it won't be like complete wipeout of total L1, but definitely even whatever L1 that goes, we have to think about upskilling and reskilling. That is what my point was. And secondly, coming about AI and ML. So a lot of the topics what we talked about, filtering the alerts in the SOC and all, they are not yet AI ML. They are still RPA. Just to simplify the topic, the thing is, RPA is a very nascent stage where we know the repetitive events and we have created a simple tool to filter out, or it's like there is no intelligence that is needed. That is still a dumb AI, I would say, dumb AI, which is just avoiding your repetitive task. You are just automating it. And where the actual AI would come is which is a more complex scenario where you would need more deeper learning and tweaking of algorithm-based decision making. So I believe the AI we are yet to really use its potential. We are using the RPA at this moment in a pretty good way. I have seen a lot of companies are adopting to different tools, like be it automation anywhere or UiPath. I would say RPA we have adapted pretty well way at this moment, but AI ML I believe we are still in, I would say, LKG or UKG. and we are still dependent on algorithms or some plugins that are provided by initial players like Google or Microsoft, who have initially developed, and we are using their algorithms rather developing our own. We are yet to progress to that stage.
I like that, Chetan. We are still in LKG or UKG for AI. Gaurav, I can see you smiling, and I know you want to come in. What is your perspective? Are we in LKG, UKG? Are we using the Google AIs and remodeling that? Babita is smiling. Or are we really way off? And can India do a different perspective here? Can we, who started the technology outsourcing, the security sort of capabilities, can we do a lead in this perspective?
Yes, I think from a lead perspective, definitely. I think there is still a lot of headroom for growth. So there are a lot of startups coming up, and I think Chetan's might be Chetan. While I don't know your startup too well, but I'm sure there are yours and other startups as well in the security space, which might which definitely can help us leapfrog. But I think going back to your original question as well, my sense is that AI, ML, or any tools are only enablers, right? At the end of the day, so we will always need the human in the equation. It's very difficult to remove the human in the equation. What generally I've seen happens is that while we have team members with new technologies coming in, these team members are encouraged to really upskill themselves, and some don't. And the ones who don't, they sort of choose and then move into different jobs, or they get left behind. But then there is a whole set of people who are wanting to stay relevant. They upskill themselves, and then they are able to contribute more. So that is sort of one point of view. So I'm not really seeing that we let people behind, or we'll have less jobs, or increased jobs. I think the increased number of headcount will also depend on the amount of volume and the growth within the organization. Because that will actually, and the more complex business cases where you start applying technology to will really determine the number of people that you might need in the short term. And then, to Chetan's point, RPA and ML and other technologies sort of can come in and help stabilize. That's point one. Point two, I think one of the things that I'm seeing, and it's the same within my organization as well, and I'm sort of working with my team, is that whenever we try to bring in a new technology, right? And I'll take an example of another security kind of a product called DLP, right? Data leak prevention, right? Apart from the malware filters or spam filters and stuff like that we're talking about, or log monitoring, which is more an IT side of the view, which is a technology side of the view. So there are a bunch of us working, but as soon as you start putting something like an IRM, or you put a DLP, which also builds in technologies like AI, ML, and all to start improving your fingerprinting and stuff like that. That's where the human angle truly hits, right? Because now you are dealing with all employees within the organization. They are all hit with the business rules that you put in. There are a lot more false positives that come in, and they get irritated more. The IT teams can still manage it. We know there will be false positives, but actually educating the camp on the other side is really important. So wearing that empathy hat, wearing the change management hat, bringing in aspects of maybe design thinking when you are actually trying to design a process, when you're trying to do security led processes, which will really go out and touch the employees, or every employee, including your MD and chairman and everybody, is really, really critical, because that can actually make or break the next round of funding that you end up getting to invest in that tool. So, and also it depends on whether it gets adopted or not. So how secure will you be? You might bring in a great technology, but if it's sort of a dampener to collaboration and it's not really implemented well and it's over restrictive, then you will find a big pushback and people won't really use it, right? So there has to be that fine balance. So that is really important as well.
So great insights for you, Chetan. Gaurav gave a lovely insight that you could bring a damn good technology, but if it doesn't have a human angle, it might not go through. So thanks, Gaurav, for that. Before I move from the skilling topic, just one question for any of you. Like, we expecting our guys under us to be skilled and L1 to be replaced and all that. How are we, besides taking part in a good panel discussion, and thanks to Jitendra, how are we upskilling ourselves? I mean, I had to read a lot to just come for the panel discussion as a moderator. But any ideas on how we as CISO should upskill ourselves? Sudeep, you sell these technologies, I consult on these, and Dilip, you use that, so do you, Gaurav and Babita. How should we be skilling ourselves to be able to make a judicious call on what is right or what is not right for our companies? This is for all the other CISOs, right? Your point of view to them, saying, guys, this is how you skill yourself. Dilip, you want to say something?
Sure, let me give it a shot. So I think a couple of ways that I normally use for upskilling, be it on the AI ML side or any other solution or technology today, and keeping myself abreast all the time, is one, definitely connecting with all of you peers on such panel discussions, as part of our community groups that we are already part of today. The second area I think which we do is we work very heavily with our partner ecosystems like IBM as well as any other organization we work with today. And we work with them on focused training groups as well as focused technology sessions to look at not only the solution that they already have, but something that they have been working for as part of their future beta roadmaps and their upcoming thought processes as advisory board councils on some of the programs that I am part of. So that again gives me a viewpoint to what are they working on, or what kind of business use cases that they can take as inputs from us and work jointly as a program to meet the industry requirements, what I require as an organization myself, as well as what my customers are expecting from me, so that I can meet their expectations. So those are a couple of areas I think that really help us.
So we learn from our customers and our internal peers. Yeah, good. Thank you. Sudeep, your views?
Yeah, so AI is a maturing technology, right? So it's going to change. And one aspect of AI that I'm seeing, and IBM is working very, very hard on that aspect, is to make AI for dummies as well, right? So you have AI for AI. You don't need a data scientist. The AI will work as a data scientist, run all the possible models, and will give you an output and say which is the most important aspect, right? So AI is going to get simpler to think. Really speaking, what is the real unknowns where AI can really help? One of the aspects, of course, is quite more known is the security operations center. Too many alerts, alert fatigue, how to dispose the alert, etc. Other part where we are seeing a good use of AI is customer experience. Now, as security professionals, as we move security as a business enabler, I think that is where our skill, the skilling needs to happen. And we need to be absolutely sure that every aspect of security will have an AI fillip, right? But now applying this security as a business enabler, for example, today we're not talking of identity access management as a compliance requirement, but we are talking about identity access management as a digital experience to improve trust as you work from home, as your consumers come onto your digital platform, right? So security is now an enabler. We want to pitch it as an enabler. And the skill really is that we need to be, is allow that risk management to become a place where we can say that risk is going to help me grow, and AI will be behind it 100%. There will be the traditional support from correlation and patterns, and Gaurav sir rightly said, most of these pattern generation can be done by ML itself. There are aspects of deep learning, aspects of AI, cognitive sciences. There are so many technical terms that I don't believe we will be able to ever go into the nitty-gritties. Just like example, we never really learned a language to understand how the program works, right? But what is the impact? What I think we really need to skill ourselves to understand the impact, which is what Chetan really mentioned. What is the impact of this AI on this particular security control, and how can I evolve that impact into a business advantage? That's, I guess, is the real skilling at an executive level, so that ultimately we can go up to board and say, here is the AI that will help you, right?
Thanks. And Chetan, from your perspective, how boards becoming so smart that they are also, and I'm sure they are very well read and they've got people who influence them in terms of educate them. Your views on this, Chetan, how is the human element of training the boards, the CISOs, the CIOs, so that they can make the right moves and select the right technologies, not for sake of technology itself, but to help enable the businesses?
My perspective is, be it any technology, be it AI or any technology, it's all about interactions and what are the systems or information you're going to access. If you know what are the integration points or interaction point, that time you are more or less aware about the risk that it might expose you. So as far as you are very conscious and aware about or have a skill set to understand what could be the risks you would be incurring by opening up those integrating or interaction points, then you will be able to judge whether it's good for you or not on a very 32,000 feet I'm talking about. And coming to when it comes to CISOs or CIOs, definitely they come from a technical background. They are good enough as far as they understand what are those integration or interaction points. They are technically capable enough to do little deep dive going ahead and look into what exactly impact it is going to cause in terms of be it your security, be it your privacy, or be it in terms of your technical whenever you do a change, how it is going to impact on your systems as well as your data security. So I believe it's all about putting little effort and deep, whenever you need to know basis, diving deep into the topic.
Thanks, Chetan. I love the way Sudeep mentioned AI for AI, AI for dummies. IDAM was once a compliance tool, now it's a digital enabler. Babita, will BFSI still be always the leader in adopting this technology? Or do I say Dilip from ITITS will this time take a rule and win this? So who is the first adopters of this?
Of course, I will say it is a BFSI because all the RBI will come up with some cybersecurity framework and all the tools we have to buy, even if it is not required. When Gaurav was saying about DLP in BFSI sector, how to use the DLP is still a question. See, what we are doing, we are using all these tools. Are we configuring it in the right way that is required for us, or are we getting a required output from that? That is a big question. Certain places, even now, I don't know, most of the people will be contacting with me. I don't know about the deception technology. Like I'm not, this RBI is asking for reception technology, but I am mentally not prepared to go for it because I am not able to accept the technology skills, what they are asking, means they are meant for. So waiting for someone to hack on that particular machine, and depending on the decoys which I am deploying, I have to get an output of it. So it is not that. Of course, in BFSI, we are into latest technologies. We always explore, and because the business is widespread across the border also, we have to go. We have to adapt all kinds of solutions for the business as a business enabler. And as a CISO, I have to be part of it and not like a showstopper. I should give the business in a secured way. And as you rightly said initially, like CISOs, we have to update our knowledge frequently. And because a lot of technologies are in place and threat factors are also more when compared to the previous years. So, and the technological aspects used by the cyber fraudsters are also very high. And in BFSI, APT kind of threat is always there. So we have to keep our eyes open always. And to defend that, we need technology.
Thanks, Babita. Dilip, over to you. She said BFSI will again lead it. You think IT, ITS, APTs are equally there. Telecom has APT 30, much more. Dilip, your perspectives.
Sure. So I'm going to first start off with a comment for you, Burgess. First, you try to team up me and Babita against Chetan, and now you're getting Babita against me.
So the whole idea of panel discussion is to have different views. So the panel benefits, the audience benefits. The whole idea is to have it's like a group discussion, right? The more better the views, the more diverse, the more enriching the discussion. And that's
Definitely. And that's why I love to be part of these sessions with you, especially because you really like to keep everybody on their toes at all times. You leave that element of surprise for us all the time.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. So to answer your question, Burgess, I think being part of the BFSI sector for nearly 15 years in the past, Avatar, before I joined in FIS and followed by that to ITI now. Here also, again, if you see from an IT organization perspective, at least for my organization, a majority of our customer base again falls back on the BFSI space. But that being said, again, when we look at it, I would not say really that cybersecurity adoption is more on the BFSI or ITIS specifically. It again depends on the area on which that organization or the industry will focus on. Like, for example, if it would be more on the application and infrastructure security side of space, I might say that BFSI might take a lead because they are very, very heavily regulated in those spaces. But when you look at it from the perspective of disruptive technologies, digital adoptions, as well as IoT and OT kind of aspects, then an ITIS organization might be far ahead of what the BFSI might do, because that is not an area which a BFSI really ventures into very much in that space of business. So that again would really mean for industry vertical as well as the business that they do and the channels or the application that they are really working on as per their business context.
Very nice and smart answer. I love that, Dilip. You
Learning from
ensuring
you,
that
boss.
BFSI, your customers are happy, but you're saying disrupt technologies. I'll have a slight lead. Sudeep, your views. Who do you sell to more? Who are your big bets on?
I'll give a cheeky answer then.
Okay, cheeky answer.
Who is going to spend money? They are going to adopt it earlier, right? So at this point of time, I really feel that the adoption of AI is definitely going to be driven by the regulators. How fast? The problem that I see as vendors, a lot of us vendors are going ahead and saying AI will automate everything. You don't have to worry about. Now, if I am in a hurry, which organizations today are in a hurry to implement changes? I don't think BFSI is, they always take calculated things. Adoption across manufacturing, I'm seeing being faster because they want it faster. They want changes to happen faster. They want, let's get started. And AI promises automation, and the promise is not unfounded. I don't think there is a lot of automation that AI can bring in beyond RPA, Chetan, the way you're saying. Yeah, beyond RPA, there is a whole bunch of automation that can bring in, but adoption as a risk management process, I still feel it would be the regulated organizations that will really focus hard. The pharma, the BFSI, and the retailer e-commerce chains. So even though they do fall, the fintechs, I think, yes. But the manufacturing guys, I think manufacturing is
So
more.
Sudeep, you're leaning more towards Gaurav. Gaurav, manufacturing, healthcare, life sciences. Sudeep is betting his big butts not on BFSI, not on IT, ITS, and sorry.
No. Okay. Correction. IT, ITS, and BFSI will pull.
Gaurav, your views on this. Would you be the big spender for Sudeep? The next big spender.
I think I think BFSI has always led technology adoption, right? And I think it is the need. It has been the need of the hour because they're managing all the money and the moolah, right? But at the end of the day, I think they've done quite a lot. So has the e-commerce sector. If I actually look at it, and in my past experience in my previous organization, I was working very closely with the aerospace and defense sector, which is also a very heavy manufacturing sector, very highly regulated as well, similar to the pharma sector where I am in right now. In both of these places, the technology adoption has been a little slow, and I think we are really catching up, and hence the speed of adoption right now on technology, right? And this could be, it's not only related to security products, but otherwise overall in the digital transformation space, there is lots more dollars going in, lot more technology adoption happening on the manufacturing, pharma, aerospace and defense now is opening up again, post COVID. But there, a lot of these sectors are seeing far more adoption. Earlier, you always used to be on the OT side doing PLC SCADA kind of automations on the plant. But now the ask from, is what do I do with all that data that's getting generated? Where can I really put in IoT, and then look at data and then make sure that there is, needless to say, a security layer on top of it to make sure, that I'm getting the insights. And from a pharma perspective, there's the CFR 21 Part 11. How do you make sure that the data is, not contaminated and there's data integrity which is maintained? And that's where security, tools also come in. So as a result, yeah. So I sort of agree to Sudeep in a certain manner that he's seeing big adoption. So in pharma and this thing, manufacturing.
Sudeep, you're a rich man. You got BFSI wanting for you, ITS wanting for you, and so is Gaurav. On that happy note, I've got a comment from the Jitendra to wind up. I'll just summarize a few of the learnings. Lots more dollars going into manufacturing. That's what the mullah is. That's what Gaurav mentioned. BFSI has always been the technology adoption leader. That's where the main cash is. Manufacturing 4.0 regulation. Who will spend money? It's driven by regulators. You lovely mentioned a great point. Which companies are in a hurry? Disruption and technologies, IT, ITS will rule. That's what mentioned by Dilip. BFSI takes the lead from a compliance perspective. Don't take the language in testimony. how is the progress it works. Digital enabler, you mentioned very well that IDAM was more of a compliance tool. Today, it's a big differentiator. AI for AI dummies, real unknowns where AI can help, customer experience, bring in new technology, design thinking for security approach. That's great thought. Involve the headcount and see how they will grow, and technology is very difficult to replace humans. AI tools are only enablers. Lots of headroom for growth. LKG, UKG in AI, RPA. We also mentioned Babita mentioned it's a business use cases that will make a big difference. Very nascent space. It's a very flat growth. We only have L2s and L3s is what mentioned by Dilip. L1s have been replaced. He moved his outsourced stock to in-house. 1,000 alerts to a few. We mentioned, Chetan, you mentioned L1s have been removed by a particular company. Targeting those aspects never looked into before. Applying the risk-based approach, super point. If you apply approach of risk, as Sudeep mentioned, you will never be irrelevant. Remove L1s and you train them up. Chetan mentioned responsible business, optimize cost of technology. Okay, boon or bane, step back, holistic view, two-pronged approach, the selection of technology, but the human angle, last page coming up. Systems response based on your inputs. As Babita mentioned, the faster the input, the better the output. Effective, but yet long time lag. Dilip also mentioned new apps, new attacks area surfaces, AI to machine intelligence. Sudeep again mentioned every aspect of cyber constraints, connect AI to the use cases, supervised, unsupervised learning, not as an alternative skills. And on this happy note, saying AI will not replace humans, but complement it. We had a lovely point on how we are upskilling ourselves and we have to be there. A great panel discussion. Thank you, panel. I loved moderating, and I'm sure as you loved being out here, challenging yourselves, grouping, ungrouping, having different points of view and having fun together. Stay safe, stay well, God bless.
Burgess, before we go, Burgess used to always give out a mind map. I see that you have written notes, but what is the mind map? We'd love to see that mind map. Great summarization, Burgess.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank
Thanks
you so much.
Thank you, everybody.
Pleasure catching up.
Thank you, everyone.
Stay
Thank
safe.
you all.